Hey everyone, thanks again for coming out and signing up for today's webinar and for being in attendance here today. My name is Stephen Wright. I've been at Q4 Launch for almost 3 years now, and today I'm excited to bring you a topic we taught over the summer a little bit and had some pretty good response to that, so decided that we would do the fall edition. So we're going to be talking about 9 ways to make your content reign in the SEO kingdom. In other words, what can you do to ensure that the content on your website is better than the rest, is better than your competitors, is better than the other websites who are trying to rank for the same keywords that you're trying to rank for. And we're going to go deep into that. We're going to look at why it matters in the first place, and then we're going to have 9 steps here, 9 ways that you'll be able to take away from here and provide better content on your website so that you start showing up in Google searches with a little more frequency. Again, just a few housekeeping things. We will send out a recording to this, so if you have to duck out early, no big deal. We'll get you the recording so that you or anybody else on your staff or somebody else that you know in the industry who might benefit from this will have that copy. We're also going to do some question and answer at the end like we do in all of our webinars. So if you do have a question, feel free to put it in the question panel really at any time. I probably won't get to those questions until the end, but it'll take about 30-40 minutes to get through these 9 steps, and then we'll get to question and answers after that. Before we dive headfirst into the content, though, we at Q4 Launch have been thinking a lot about, okay, how, we do these webinars, they're very well attended, we're getting to teach thousands of people over the course of the year, different things that we're learning, as a digital marketing company, and so we like sharing that with you. One of the things, though, that we are trying to do is, okay, how can we bring this to people at a more intimate level? And so we've tossed around the idea of, okay, can we bring ourselves and some of what we know to your area specifically? And so I threw up a question there on the screen, and just take a few seconds to fill that out. You're really just helping us understand where the most concentrated group of people are that would be willing to attend something if we put on like a one-day marketing seminar, let's say. And so yeah, we're just trying to figure out where people might be interested. Matt asked the same question in his last webinar, which was sometime last week, I think last Thursday. And so we're just trying to get a feel and collecting some data over the course of the next several weeks to see which of you would like us. And if there's enough of you in your area who have replied yes to this, then odds are in 2017 you might be seeing us, and we might ask you actually to help us market it and put it on, and you never know, we might bring some business your way too, with bringing some people into the area. So again, thanks for just taking a few seconds to fill this out. We're not going to spend much more time here, but I do appreciate, looks like 65% of you have already voted, so thanks for doing that. And the overwhelming amount of you has said yes, that you would want to come. So yeah, like I said, be on the lookout. We'll be in touch once we have some more details on that, but wanted to throw that question up there first, and I appreciate you taking the time to cast your vote. Alrighty, so without further ado, let's go ahead and hop right into the content. And our first question today that we want to answer is, why in the world does content even matter at all? Does it matter? Should I pay any attention to this? Should I just have photos on my site? Do I need text? And here's kind of the answer that we give time and time again. And I've been, like I said, I've been at Q4 Launch here for 3 years. Matt has owned the company for about 8.5 years and has been doing digital marketing for about 15 years, I think. And so when I hear him talk to people, and for me, just relying on his years of expertise in this field, his comment is, over time, no matter what algorithm change Google has implemented, panda, pigeon, penguin, whatever else other bird has been implemented as a change, the one constant is that if you have great content on your website, that great content will continue to be rewarded. And so for us, because we have seen that happen time and time again, year after year, month after month, regardless again of what algorithm changes Google makes, we want to make sure that our customers continually have that great content on their website. What that translates into, first and foremost, well, the first part of that is more traffic. When you have great content and Google rewards you, you get more organic traffic for that. And so if you've ever heard us speak before, you know a lot of what we do revolves around that first step, is how can we bring more traffic to your website. That traffic then helps build your brand, and how can we do that time and time again? If we can get more traffic to your website, these next two things here on the list really take care of themselves. So we get more traffic, that traffic turns into leads, those leads turn into bookings, and that's the pattern we see. And I'm going to address this question real quick. Charles, I appreciate your humor, man. He asked me if panda was a bird, and I guess not. I guess just pigeon and penguin are birds. Panda, not a bird. I've never seen one fly. I've never seen one in person, so maybe they do fly and I don't know about it. But I appreciate the comment and keeping me in line over here in case I'm wandering off the path. So I do appreciate that. All right, so more traffic, more leads, more bookings, right? So here are 9 ways that we've seen work really, really well in order to get people, back to your website from an organic traffic standpoint. So don't feel like you have to write all these down right now. If you're a note taker, we're going to go through each of these, as we go along and break each one down individually. But here are the steps. And again, we're gonna break these down individually, so don't feel the need to have to write this down right now. But this is essentially our agenda for the next half hour, 45 minutes. All right, first of all, the number one thing that I would charge you to do is, when you're creating content, you need to have a plan. You need to have a strategy. And if you don't have that strategy, if you don't have a plan, and if you're not willing to do the research to create a plan, then writing the content probably is going to be an unfruitful endeavor for you. The first bullet point there, great content without direction just doesn't work. You're not going to see results from it. The first step of that is we want you to first and foremost determine what your core keywords are, whether you're a vacation rental, a hotel, an inn, whatever it is that you are marketing. You need to make sure that you have a firm grasp of what your core keywords are. So you see that chart over there on the right, and this is a screenshot I grabbed from Google's keyword planner. And so if I go into, let's say I'm managing 35 condos in Charleston, and so I think that I need to be ranking for Charleston condo rentals. Well, that's a good thing. I want to be #1 for Charleston condo rentals, because that is very core to who I am as a business owner, and I want people, when they're searching for that, to find my business and to book my condos. But let's look at that search traffic. If I look at, let's say my condos are all on or near Folly Beach. Well, I can rank for Charleston condo rentals, and that's who I am, and that makes sense. But there's only 90 people a month searching for Charleston condo rentals. On the flip side, if I take out the word condo and replace that with vacation and add either Folly Beach or keep Charleston there are 1,600 people a month searching for each of those 2 keywords. And so if I'm trying to get my message and my brand in front of as many people as I can, is Charleston condo rentals the best keyword for me to be ranking for? No, it's not. It's important and it's good, but it's not the most important. When we look and see that Folly Beach vacation rentals and Charleston vacation rentals are both getting way more traffic on a monthly basis than the condo rentals keyword. Same thing. If my general vernacular is typically Charleston vacation homes, and I do all my content around Charleston vacation homes, okay, fine, you're going to get, if you rank first, you're going to get 30 searches a month. But again, that's not the best use of your time when creating your content, when there are other core keywords that people are searching for with greater frequency. And so that's #1. You have to understand that, and you have to not just know what you feel people are searching for and and you have to be able to separate the way that you might search for something, the way you might talk about something, with what the data shows you that people are actually searching for. So again, if I have always said Charleston Vacation Homes, I've been in the business 25 years, and all my content is about Charleston Vacation Homes, you're missing out, because Charleston Vacation Rentals is the way people are searching. And you have to know that in order to maximize the content and to get more and more people to your website. The second part of that is, and we don't have a screenshot for this right now, but once we have those core keywords identified, we create content around that. Now, and this is a big part of a blogging strategy usually, but you want to pinpoint keywords that you know travelers are searching for. So when somebody's searching for a vacation rental, that's very core to your business, and that makes sense for you to go after those keywords first, which is why we call them kind of your core keywords. But what about those extraneous ones? Like, what are travelers searching to do when they come to Charleston? Well, they're looking for restaurants, they're looking for beaches, they're looking for carriage rides, they're looking for seafood specifically when we're looking at restaurants, so not just all restaurants, but seafood restaurants. So they're looking for all these things when they're in that planning stage of making their decision as to where to go on vacation. And so when people are searching for those things, the beaches, the seafood restaurants, the carriage rides, we want to have content on our websites so that we're appealing to travelers as a whole, and not just that very specific traveler who might be searching for, a vacation rental or a hotel or a B&B or whatever. And so this is a huge part of it, because you're able to capture and bring travelers to your website in ways that you're probably missing out on right now if you aren't doing the research and if you don't have an active blog. And so, and you see the last there, we only want to make sure that we have content on our website that we know people are searching for. And so, so we want to do research, and we want to make sure we have some data to back up any blog, any page, any piece of content that we have on our website. We want to have the data to know for certain that people are actually searching for that particular keyword. So step one, we want to have a plan. We want to know how to direct our content to begin with. All right, moving on here. Let's look at step two. Step two is, let's make sure that you're using a professional writer. And sometimes when we bring this up to people, they might take offense, they might not, or they might just automatically understand, yeah, I'm not a professional writer. And so really the basic question you need to ask yourself is, okay, am I good at this? Like, is writing a gift of mine? And there's some ways, sometimes you just know that, you know whether or not you're a good writer, if you like it, is it something that you can do relatively efficiently and quickly, and just ask yourself that question. I would couple that with, okay, if it is a gift of yours, do you have time based on the other obligations that you have within your company? And so ask yourself, is writing a gift of mine? Ask yourself, do I have time to do this even if I am good at it? And let those kind of be a guide as to whether or not you should hire a professional writer. A few other reasons where we see this go really well. Writers, just by definition, professional writers by definition, are really great at writing and creating content. And so there are people out there who just have this skill set, and they understand how to turn words into something great, something people will enjoy reading. And so you have to, our recommendation is that you should be using people with this type of skill level creating your content. Not only are we seeing this better for the user experience, so if I go to your website, I'd rather read a professional writer's let's say blog entry versus somebody who doesn't understand grammar or sentence construction. That's a given. But what we're also seeing is that Google is ranking well-written content better and better all the time. For a long time, Google would look strictly at keywords. And way back in the day, it was a lot of keyword stuffing. So as long as you had, the keyword Charleston downtown restaurants 1,000 times on your page, there's a good chance you'd rank for that. But Google's getting smarter. The Google bot is better able to understand, human behavior and what we like as readers and users of the Google search engine. And so Google has placed these sorts of things into their algorithm. So you have to have well-written content regardless now, regardless of how many keywords you have and where they're placed and how many meta descriptions you have. The content has to be well written first and foremost now, and then the rest of that stuff, and we'll talk about these things. The rest of that stuff needs to happen as well. You need to have some keywords. You need to have different sorts of descriptions on photos and all that. But you have to start with a piece of well-written content. Again, Google's getting great at understanding this, and you got to think of it in these terms. Google's job when somebody searches for anything is to give their users what they deem to be the absolute best piece of content. And so Google is going to rank based upon that, and if Google sees that this content that you're writing is not very good, then they're just not going to rank you. It's as simple as that. It all goes back to what Google sees as the best result for their users, and again, they're using a lot of user behavior now to better understand that and to use in their ranking algorithm. So I'm not going to spend too much more time there. It's pretty cut and dry. If you're not a pro writer, hire one. It'll make a world of difference when creating content for your website. All right, so I touched on this just 30 seconds ago, but Google wants your content to be helpful, and they want to provide the absolute best result for their users. And so you need to have that in mind when you're creating your content, that okay, well, if Google is going to reward the best piece of content when I'm talking about, let's say Rocky Mountain hiking trails, then I need to have a piece of content that I feel like is the best resource out there for Rocky Mountain hiking trails. And so that has to be the mindset when you're creating content. You don't want to just put up a piece just to have for content's sake. You really want it to be good. You want it to provide answers for these travelers. You want it to provide solutions for the travelers who you are trying to attract to your business. The more and more that you can do that for people, that Google rewards you and people start finding you, and then two, when people get to your content and they see, wow, these people really have it together, first of all, they know you because they've landed on your page and they've read your content. When it's good, they start trusting you. And something that we talk about as a company all the time is this idea of know, like, and trust. People are going to do business with people who they know, like, and trust. And so for you, as you're trying to attract travelers, if they first know you because you're showing up in the Google searches, and then they like you and they start trusting you because you're giving them great content time and time again, there's a whole heck of a lot better chance that they're going to book with you down the road, as opposed to if you're providing them, just bad content. And so we want to be providing these answers, providing solutions to travelers that they deem to be really, really good. A few ways to start thinking about this. The number one way is going back to step one and doing some research and figuring out what people are searching for and putting some numbers to it. Number two is to think about what people ask you, after they make that booking and they send you emails, or when they're checking in and they're looking for, different things to do in your area. If people are asking you those questions, whether via email or when they check in, we can guarantee essentially that people are asking Google those same questions. So that would be a place to start and start creating some content around those questions that you're answering over and over again. We talked about this idea of being the local expert, and that falls into that know, like, and trust phase. And again, if you can refer back to step one and have a plan and know what people are searching for, if there's 3,000 people a month searching for a particular topic, that is a question that you should endeavor to answer, provided that it has something to do with traveling and you're attracting the right type of guest. So step three, provide answers and solutions for travelers in your content so that Google rewards you and that they find you and start knowing you, liking you, and trusting you. Here's one example of that too. This is a customer of ours up in Connecticut, And you can see they're actually ranked third, and the screenshot was taken a little while ago, so there's some fluctuation, so I don't know where they're ranking today per se. But Stanton House Inn, this is a blog we wrote for them about the best beaches near Greenwich, and it's ranking third. And okay, well, what does this matter? You know, we've gotten, you know, you're third for this keyword, who cares? Well, we can turn that into traffic, right? And you can see as of July, in July, that blog alone brought, if I'm looking at the graph, nearly 2,000 people to the website. That blue line is, the blue line is kind of total traffic that's gotten to that blog, so that would include sources like email marketing campaigns or social media or something like that. But that orange line is only looking at organic traffic. And so, yeah, that organic traffic is, like I said, nearly 2,000. And over, you know, we wrote that blog in March of 2016, and in the first, 5 months. In the first 5 months, that blog alone brought 3,700 people to their website from organic search. So again, Google deemed us worthy of having really great content on that topic. We're putting it, they're putting us, you know, ranked third, at least we're at that time, and so we're getting a lot of people to the website for this particular customer who otherwise probably wouldn't have ever known that this customer existed when they were looking for, you know, things to do in Greenwich, Connecticut. All right, we're going to transition into another analytics graph here, and so what I really want to point out here, you can see it at the top there, but there is a level of consistency that you need to maintain in order for Google to start ranking you to begin with. And so every single time we start working with a customer, like the expectation we set is not, hey, we're going to write a blog today and it's going to rank tomorrow, or we're going to write a blog this month and it's going to rank within the next 4 weeks. Like that to us would be, well, one, we don't believe it, so we wouldn't say that, and two, it would really not, it wouldn't set us up well because our expectations would be, you know, not in line with what we know to be the truth. And so we try to be very transparent in that when you start blogging, particularly if you're starting it from scratch, you're not going to see results for 3 to 6 months, and and that's regardless of how great your content is. This is a customer of ours. This is one customer of ours, but this is nearly an identical graph for every single one of our customers. It always takes until about somewhere in the 3 to 6 month mark for Google to start rewarding us, and we believe that Google wants to see that consistency for an extended period of time before they start rewarding content. They want those people who are in it for the long haul, not people who are just trying to find a, you know, quick fix and get results. And so we believe that if you stop after 2 or 3 months, that's a sign to Google that you were never serious about blogging in the first place, and they're just not going to rank your content. So we feel pretty strongly about this. And again, this graph obviously only represents one of our customers, with again that blue line being total blog traffic and the orange line being organic blog traffic. So this is the graph that we see over and over and over again. So if you're going to start blogging for the first time and you don't see results for 3 to 6 months, you know, don't come and say, or until that time, you know, if it's only 2 months, don't email me angry and say, hey, I'm not getting results, I'm doing everything you said. My advice would be, hey, do it for another 3 to 6 months, and if you're doing it right and you're doing it well, you're going to see that. And you know, year 2 is always better than year 1, and year 3 is always better than year 2, because you have what we call, you know, a depth of content then on your website. And that really helps me sum up this final point is when you have depth of content on your site, now you have more and more places that you can do some internal linking. And so let's say your website right now has, before you start blogging, let's say has somewhere between 12 to 20 static pages. So not huge, not a lot of content. There's only so many, you know, places that you can link people. So if you're writing a blog about, you know, the best restaurants in downtown Charleston, like, you may or may not have any content, other, you know, supplementary content on your website currently that relates to that. And so, but by the time you write a weekly blog for 2 years, that's 104 blogs if my math is correct. Charles, check me on that. I know you've been checking me here on my my errors earlier. So I think 52 plus 52 is 104. But so after 2 years, now you have 104 blogs that are ranking, or not, maybe not all ranking, but you have on your website, and that allows you to then start really doing a lot of internal linking, because you have so many more options, and you already have the answer to every question that people might have already on your website. And so this keeps people on your website longer. It also has what we've seen, we've done a lot of testing on this recently, and I don't have all the data to share yet because we're still wrapping up this testing, but what we've seen is that when we can internal link as well, it increases conversion rates, and we start ranking better even in a lot of cases. And so if that doesn't necessarily make sense to you right now, I wanted to use this example of Wikipedia, and we've all probably been on Wikipedia. It's it's one of the biggest websites in the world. And so what does Wikipedia do really well, other than obviously put up a false photo of me under my Wikipedia page? I'm kidding, that's not me. I wasn't born in 1955, but for everybody who is around my parents' age, they always make a joke about whether or not I'm this very dry comedian who I never had even heard of until I was probably 20 years old. Anyways, Wikipedia is a genius, or whoever created this on their team are geniuses with how much they do internal linking. All of their links go back to another page on their site, and so they can keep people there for sometimes hours because something triggers them. I could start out reading about Stephen Wright, and then I see something that's blue there. Oh, non sequiturs. What does that mean? I've never heard of that before. And let me click on that. And then I go to another page about non sequiturs, and there's another 100 things linked that I might be able to click on that might catch my interest. And so in the same way, we want to keep people on your sites, and you should want to keep people on your sites too. And so having that internal linking strategy is a great way to do that. And again, like I said, it ends up increasing conversion rates, sometimes by double. Again, that's some of the numbers we've seen, so I let a little slip there, but like I said, the testing isn't completely finished yet, but we've seen some instances where bolstering our content and internal linking strategy has helped conversion rates increase by about 100%. Let me add one other caveat to that too. So while we do want internal linking, another thing that Google likes to see is that they don't want the user's journey to stop at your website. Google wants to see a free-flowing internet, essentially. So you do have to have some instances where you're linking away from your website as well. So again, that's sometimes hard to stomach for people. Why would I want to send somebody away from my site? Well, the reality is that Google wants to see you sending people away from your site, because that shows that you're not just being selfish, but you're participating in this free-flowing internet that Google puts a lot of stock into. So yeah, there's a picture not of me, but of the other Stephen Wright, I like to call him, and apparently he's a lot funnier than me. I've never actually heard him, so you might know better than me. But we're going to transition on now to step number 5, the 9th way to help make your content awesome, is to use long tail keywords. And sometimes people have heard this before, sometimes they haven't, but want to make sure that that we have a good understanding of this. And so as a definition, a keyword, whether it be long tail, short tail, or just a keyword is anything that you type into Google, whether it's literally one word or a string of 7 words. Google calls that a keyword. And so keep that in mind here as we're going through. But all right, so we have an example here, the keyword Charleston SC. Very, very broad. There's other than, maybe you're looking for, what are you looking for there, right? Are you looking for Charleston SC history? Are you just looking for where it is on a map? Are you looking for restaurants? I mean, it's an nearly unlimited amount of things you might be trying to rank for or that you might be looking for when you type in a search Charleston SC. But when we expand upon that and we turn that into a long tail keyword, an example would be best restaurants in downtown Charleston SC. So what we've done is we have narrowed the scope of what we are looking for. We've gone from trying to find an answer or trying to rank for, in our cases, something that there's, I don't know the number, maybe 1 billion search results for, because Charleston is a huge destination. There's a lot of people writing about it, especially in the last several years, to, okay, we want something very specific. We don't want just the restaurants. We want best restaurants. And we don't want just restaurants in Charleston, but we want the best restaurants in downtown Charleston. And so now that user is looking for something very, very specific. So as the people creating that content, we need to have a long tail keyword focus within our content. And we need to have content on our site not just about restaurants in Charleston, but best restaurants in downtown Charleston, SC. And sometimes it makes sense to have, you want a blog or a piece of content about just restaurants in Charleston, and you want some about best restaurants in downtown Charleston, and you want seafood restaurants on James Island, or whatever it is, all these things that relate to it. But you have to break it down and you have to narrow the focus. When you do that, you're more likely to rank. So there's not going to be as many people searching for best restaurants in downtown Charleston, SC as there are just Charleston, SC. But if you can be on the first page for a keyword that gets 200 searches a month, or you're on the 100th page for a keyword that gets 1 million searches a month, you're going to be in better shape if you're ranking for that keyword that's only getting 200 searches a month. And so you're going to be more likely to rank if you go after the long tail keywords. You're going to attract a more targeted audience, so people who are looking for that specific piece of content that you've created. And you're going to be able to provide great in-depth answer on a more focused keyword. Whereas, again, if you're writing a piece of content on Charleston, SC, where do you begin? Where do you end? What do you include? Who knows? But if you can narrow that focus by using long tail keywords and answer a question about best restaurants in downtown Charleston, SC, you're gonna be a lot better off, and your users, the users who find you through Google, are going to be much happier because you've given them exactly what they've searched for, in the Google search bar. All right, the next thing here is incorporate great images. I would caution to not sacrifice content in place of images. Images are important, and you need to have great photography. You need to have large photography, we think, but because society is expecting that. We're living in a very visual culture. We look at things like Instagram or Pinterest or Facebook, or to a lesser extent Twitter, but you even see this with them now, including photos in their timeline over the last several years. You really want to make sure they have great visual images to get people engaged visually on your site. But like I said, you don't want to go too far and have nothing but great images without the content, because like I mentioned before, you have to have the great content so Google knows what your page is about. And our director of marketing, Colin, I was talking to him the other day, and he was like, "Hey, have you ever heard the 3 rules of digital marketing?" I was like, "Tell them to me." He was like, "People don't read, people don't read, people don't read." And so the test that we've done, that I've alluded to a few times now, about our content and the calls to action and how we're writing it and how we're internally linking that, we wanted to test that, and we've seen that to be completely untrue. So while people do engage and love great photography, it's not the only thing people are responding to. People do want great content, which is really the reason why we're teaching this webinar today. But we do want to use images that evoke an emotional response. So if you have a great picture of sunsets, or guests who have had a great time when they've stayed with you, flowers, snow, the first snow if you're in the mountains, whatever it might be. We want that to happen, but there's also some great SEO benefits as well, in terms of being able to, Google, you got to think of it this way: Google doesn't necessarily look at a page like we do. They don't have human eyes, even though the Google bot is really, really smart. But what they can read is the code. And so in that code, in the file name and our alt text and some other places, we need to make sure that we have our keywords in those places as well, or some descriptions there, so that, again, that's helping us rank, helping Google better understand what this particular page is about, if we can give it more clues with some of the code that we can incorporate images, excuse me. So yeah, it's a two-edged thing here. We want to evoke an emotional response, and we want to help our SEO out by doing that, so that Google can get a better understanding of what this particular page is about. All right, again, this is kind of a visual thing, but what we've seen is that by breaking up the content, we're allowing people to skim it at their leisure. We're allowing them to get exactly where they want to get to quickly. So as opposed to having just a huge block of text, which if you guys are like me, you know, if I click on a link and I just see nothing but text, and it's small, and it reminds me of a textbook, which I probably never read all of any textbook, I'd much prefer to skim. And so we want to set up our content in a way that allows people to do that. Again, we want to give them a great result, and we know that people don't necessarily want to, while they are reading more, we know they don't necessarily want to just read straight down a line of just normal font, normal text. So we need to break that up for them so they can get to where they want to go to quickly. You can see kind of an example here on the right side. You know, we have an intro paragraph. We have kind of a bigger subheading in terms of what they're going to see when they read underneath, and we even have that broken down into three different, you know, in this case, three different vineyards that we were featuring in this particular blog. So again, this is another area where not only is this better from a user experience, giving them an easier way to digest your content, but it's also good for SEO. I mean, we need to have keywords in all these areas. If we just have text, so and it's what normal paragraph text, that's good. We need to have our keywords in that area. But what we also know is that Google, if our keywords are in the headings, so if we see here in the title, your guide to the best Vermont wineries, and then we see our subheading has spend an afternoon at these 3 Vermont wineries. I didn't write this blog, nor did I do the research to figure out what it is, but because I know how we do things here, that the keyword for this is Vermont wineries, and so having it in the headline tells Google that, okay, this must be about Vermont wineries, and then having it again in a subheading, that just reiterates that fact. And then, you know, as we look at the three kind of even what would be called like the H3 tags, the H3 headings, the Snow Farm Vineyard, Shelburne Vineyard, and Lincoln Peak Vineyard, that gives Google a very good idea as to what the content is about. And so it allows us not only to break it up from a user standpoint, but also provides us some great opportunity to include keywords in very important parts as Google deems so. All right, so we talked earlier about hiring a professional writer, and you need to make sure that that you have a person, you know, writing your content who is great at writing, but they don't have to be Shakespeare, John Steinbeck, or whoever your favorite author is. Like, that's not what we're saying here. In fact, what we have seen and what we know to be true is that you have to write at about a 10th grade level, and so and sometimes that's hard too. You know, if we are a very talented writer, but all of our writing is, you know, for these guys, you know, Shakespeare, Steinbeck, you'll see at the bottom, the Hemingway app is an app we use. Would those guys be able to write in a way that makes sense for, you know, how old are you in the 10th grade? 15, 16 years old? Is it easily digestible for a 15 or 16-year-old? Not you know, somebody who just yearns for British literature. And so this is again, we've run a lot of tests on this, and we see this not only improving user experience, but because it's improving user experience, Google is rewarding us more and more. And so you know, you have to write in a way that is going to be most appealing to the highest amount of people. I feel the need to share this with you. I just looked out my window and it's snowing in Colorado right now, which doesn't make me happy, but hopefully we can keep this on the tracks here for the final 10-15 minutes of the webinar. But anyway, I got distracted there by the snow. Anyway, yeah, so we want to write at a 10th grade level, and there's some ways that can help. You know, one of the tools that we use that I mentioned, the Hemingway app, you can just copy and paste your text into that app, and it'll tell you, hey, you're at a 10th grade level, or you're at a doctoral level, or and it'll show you the different sentences that you can change in order to get to that reading level that you want to be at. Again, that doesn't mean use slang or abbreviations or bad grammar, bad punctuation, or any of that. It just means that the sentence structure and the vocabulary and some things like that need to be in a way that's easiest for the largest amount of people to read. And what Google is showing us and what they're telling us is that, hey, that's at the 10th grade level. So. All right, so the last thing here, how to make your content great. So this isn't necessarily the most important thing from a search engine optimization standpoint. However, if we're doing all this work in these first 8 steps to get people to our website from organic search, what then, what good is that traffic to us if they leave, or if they leave right away? So we want to have very specific calls to action within all of our content that helps people get to that next page that we want them to get to. It helps get them to our rooms page, or our properties page, or our check availability page. Or if we know that it doesn't make sense for somebody to go from a restaurants page straight to booking, what's a wise page that we want to get them to in between? So if we go to the restaurant guide, one of the things that we do for our customers is what's called a vacation guide. So if they land on a blog that has the 10 best restaurants in downtown Charleston, and while it doesn't make sense for them to immediately maybe look right at our inventory, we want to bring that middle step in, knowing that, okay, well, if they're interested in restaurants, maybe they're interested in other things to do in the area, so let's try to direct them to this vacation guide page. And if they can get there, then we have an opportunity to convert them as a lead if they download that vacation guide. And so it's not, while we care more than anything, we care about the final step, which is that booking and revenue. We also understand that there are a lot of steps in that process to get people there, and not everybody who comes to the website the first time is ready to book. So what can we do to guide them down that funnel, that buyer's journey to get there? And it might be longer for some people and it might be shorter for some people, but we want to make sure that we have forms and content and pages on our site that allow us to interact with people at whatever stage of that they might be. And so these calls to action to the whatever is the most appropriate next step from that particular piece of content, that's where we want to guide people. And so, like I said, not necessarily a ranking factor from an SEO standpoint, but certainly a factor when you're looking to convert people at a higher rate. All right, that's a lot. We've covered a lot here, so we're going to open it up for questions here in a second. So if you haven't asked one, even though we've had about 4 or 5 come in, so thanks for that. If you haven't asked one yet, now's the time to get that in there. But I'll leave you with this. Creating great content is a lot of work. We spend probably more time on this aspect of what we do, creating content that's going to do well from an SEO standpoint, that people are going to enjoy, that we can repurpose in email campaigns, that we can post on social media. It's worth it, but it takes a lot of hard work for sure. If you feel like you kind of meet all these criteria, particularly about the being a great writer part, and you know how to do the research, the next thing is just start doing it. And then the more and more you do it, the quicker you're going to be at it, the more efficient that you'll become, just like anything. And then the last piece here, the SEO, writing content from an SEO perspective and from a user experience perspective, it's a lot of upfront work, like I said. But when you do that upfront work, a great piece of content that performs well will do so for a long, long time, or so it should. The one that comes to mind, I remember we wrote a blog back in October of 2014, so more than 2 years ago, for a customer about New Year's Eve in their particular city, and we wrote that. It ranked right away, almost instantly. Within about 4 weeks, it started getting organic traffic. And so when people were looking for New Year's Eve plans in this city, that December, 1,500 people found them via organic search in that first month, so 2 months after writing the content. The next December, so 12 months later, we went in and we tweaked some of the content a little bit just to match up with times and dates and things like that. But what we saw that year was because people started searching for it a little sooner, we had 2,500 people come to their website from organic search. So, and I haven't looked at it for this year yet. I probably should have done that, but we're anticipating big things from that blog again, once we go in and update that content. So again, we put in the majority of that work up front back in October 2014, and that particular customer is still reaping the benefits from that work. And so the last thing, well, before we get to questions, again, if you've been with us any amount of time on these webinars, or if it's your first time, welcome. But we always like to give you a next step. So if you listen to the points, you think, okay, great, I understand this, but what do I do now? Well, what we want to offer you is just an opportunity for us to come in alongside and just evaluate, how your content is and where we see some of the holes or where we see things going well. And so if that's you, if you want us to, either myself or Matt or another member of our team, to come alongside and do that for you, again, I'm throwing a poll up there on the screen. Answer yes, no, or if maybe you don't need the content evaluation, that's not something you're interested in, but you've liked something else that you've heard today and you want to ask some other questions, you can check that box that says you'd like to learn more about who we are and how we might be able to help in some other ways. And so again, we're going to do question and answers here in just a second. We'll probably let this poll run for another 30 seconds to a minute or so. I'm going to drink some water here in a second too, to catch my breath a little bit while you all are submitting questions and answering this poll. But yeah, I highly recommend that if you do want to take some sort of a next step, answer this quick question, and then we'll be in touch as quickly as we can with you after the webinar to get something on our calendar so we can do either the content evaluation or answer any other questions that you might have. All right. Well, thanks for filling out the form. It looks like several of you had the opportunity to fill that out. So I'm going to close that down. Again, if you have any other questions or didn't feel like submitting an answer on that form, no big deal. You can see my email there on the screen. You can email me afterwards with any questions that you might have. But yeah, there's several questions that came in the last few minutes. So let's take a look at these, and we will answer questions, or I will answer questions, I should say, just as long as you guys have them. So if anything else comes up, feel free to submit one in that question panel. All right, so we already talked about the first question that Charles sent and asked me if a panda was a bird, and we already clarified that 10 minutes in, so we're going to not go back there. So a question from Vicky. Vicky asked, where do you find the keywords? And a few people asked this. So this is kind of changing, but for the last several years, we have used Google's Keyword Planner as kind of a first step for us, and we're still using it as a first step. But Keyword Planner is a tool within Google AdWords. It's a free tool to use. So you have to have an AdWords account, but you don't have to pay to use Keyword Planner itself. And what we've seen is they've changed the way they're showing us results. So that screenshot I took that showed Charleston vacation rentals, Folly Beach vacation rentals, and so forth, I took that screenshot probably 6 months ago before the change had been fully implemented, and it was showing me an exact amount for that average. You know, we saw either 90 a month or 1,600 a month, I think were the numbers that were up on the screen. But now what I'm seeing when I do those researches in Google's Keyword Planner is that they're giving us a range. And so instead of an exact number, it's giving me something like, okay, there are between 10 and 100 people searching for this a month. And then the next step is there are between 100 and 1,000 people searching for this a month. And so it's changing a bit. You still get an idea of what the search traffic is, but it's not as precise, and that's a little frustrating. I wish they wouldn't have done that, obviously, because it kind of, you know, puts into more question. But we're also, you know, since this is what we do all day every day, or part of what we do all day every day, we've invested in some resources that we've paid for that allow us to do some keyword research. But again, it's software that we've paid for. You know, some Moz is a software that allows you to do keyword research. SEMrush is a software that allows you to do some keyword research, and there's several out there. But I would start with Keyword Planner, and even though the range isn't ideal, it does give us a decent opportunity to understand what people are searching for, even if it is they've turned it into that range. So, all right, let's see. What about the 79% bounce rate and the $0 in bookings in the far right column? And I'm assuming that, Mike, that question refers to one of the analytics graphs I had up when we were looking at some of the blog. And so I'm pretty sure what we were looking at, so the bounce rate was there, 79%, and I'll touch on that in a second. And the $0 in bookings, I don't think e-commerce was set up or was showing on that. What we were looking at was the number of vacation guides that were downloaded from people who had been who had landed on that web page first. And so if I'm trying to think back, and I think it was 12. So for everybody who had come to that particular blog page about Greenwich Beach, Connecticut, 12 people had converted as a lead. And so, when we convert leads, we add those people to our email database. We also trigger a series of automated marketing, automated emails that they get. And so while I didn't have the e-commerce data up for that, and I don't know if there was any associated with that, like I said earlier, if somebody's looking for beaches, the next step might not necessarily be to book. It might just be to find out more information about what else there is to do in the area, which is why we worked harder on getting people to that vacation guide page and getting them to convert as a lead that way. And we were successful, it looked like 12 times in those 5 months. So that one blog had some success for us, certainly. And when we, that was one blog. So if we're writing, one blog a week for that particular customer, that's a lot of different pieces of content that have the opportunity to rank, that have the opportunity to turn people into leads, essentially. And so, yeah, that's probably why we didn't see any bookings for that in the far column. In terms of the bounce rate, that's something that people ask me about all the time. I would say the best way to look at bounce rate is to compare bounce rate for a particular page or for a particular source of traffic against the other sources of traffic that your website is getting, or the other pages that people are landing on in your site. And so, yeah, that is a little bit higher. Again, if people are looking for, beaches, I think the other number was people were staying on there for about 1 minute and 10 seconds, so that's probably long enough to read that. And if they were just interested in beaches, they're going to have a higher bounce rate. They might not be interested in rooms or in a property, and that's okay, because we knew that there were some people who did and converted into bookings. But my suggestion would be let's look at that 79% bounce rate, and let's see what pages are performing better than that. What pages are performing worse than that, and see what we can learn from our own content on our own site. What can I learn about that page that has a 50% bounce rate, and how can I then implement whatever it is that we did there on the page that's getting 79% in order to bring that 79% down to 70%, or to bring that 70% down to 65%. And so that's typically how I like to use the bounce rate metrics, because everybody's website, from what we see, our customers, and then also for folks that we do analytics analyses for, is that bounce rate is really all over the board. And so I try to just compare it to what we have going on our own sites or on our own customer sites in order to see what we can do to improve specific pages or specific sources of traffic. Can I please show the secret Google SEO algorithm that Googlebot uses? No, I can't. I wish. If I could do that, I would be making, maybe $1 million a year if I knew all that and could do that, but I am not making $1 million a year. Matt treats me very well, but I don't have the answer to Google's SEO algorithm. Sorry, Charles. Let's see. Another question about the keyword searches from Martha, and I think I covered that. Again, Keyword Planner is the place we start, and if the ranges aren't enough information for you, which they can be a good start for people, then I would try to look into something that you want that you can pay for. Again, that's not always in the budget. For us, it is, because we're doing this for 90 folks across the country. So we have your reason to have access to some paid keyword search tools. So that helps us out a bit. Another question from Mike. Where is the Google search term research tool? It's in Google AdWords, and then it's called Keyword Planner. So I don't know exactly what part of the menu it falls under. It used to fall under Tools, but I know some people have the newer version of AdWords and some are on the old. So I'm not as familiar with the new version, so I couldn't tell you that. But if you're on the old version, it's under Tools and it's called Keyword Planner, and you can start typing in some keywords and seeing what happens there. All right. If we're running a separate site outside of a brand site, are you cannibalizing your efforts by bidding on brand terms for the vanity? And so that's a great question. So by bidding, I assume, Blake, that you might be talking about pay-per-click and spending some money on that. And yeah, so sometimes if you're bidding on the brand term, but you're trying to attract that to a different site, that's, yeah, okay, I got confirmation from you there. Thanks for helping me there. But yeah, if let's say you're the vanity site trying to bid on the brand terms, it's going to cost more for that. From our experience anyway, the vanity site is probably going to cost more to get that cost per click where you want it to be for the brand terms. But if it's the brand website and you're bidding on the brand term, we see this a lot. People who aren't a particular company bidding on that company's name. If you are the brand, you should be getting that cost per click for a much lower cost per click than, let's say, the vanity site even would be. So I'm not sure if that I'd be bidding on the terms on the vanity site just because it's going to cost us more. But if you're going to try to create content around it and not necessarily pay for it, but get some organic search, get some organic traffic to some pages that way, I think that's good. I mean, for a lot of our customers, we try to capitalize on other local businesses in the area that get a lot of search traffic and try to have content. So if it's if we're running a hotel or we're doing the marketing for a hotel and there's a particular attraction in the area that gets a lot of search traffic, well, there's a good chance that over the course of our strategy, we're going to write a blog about whatever that business is and try to really create a great piece of content. And we'll know that obviously we won't show up first because we aren't that particular business, and that business will show up better. But we feel like we have the ability to outrank others who might be trying to rank for that. So yeah, I hope that helps. If not, send me an email and I'll try to get you a better answer there. A question from Jen here. Suggestions for how far in advance you should write about a topic that will be relevant later. For example, write about skiing in October or November ahead of ski season opening. Great question, Jen. And I didn't cover that in the webinar, but it's something we usually talk about quite a bit, is how far in advance do you need to be writing this content. So let's look at that. So you have the ski season. Like I said, it's snowing outside my window, so I guess that means ski season is finally here. But yeah, if I wrote a blog today about ski season, it's probably not going to do me a whole lot of good for the next 30 to 60 days at least. So what we try to do, and I use I'll go back to my example about New Year's Eve. We wrote that blog in October knowing that people weren't going to be searching for that until probably early to mid-December. But we also know that we have to give Google time to do a couple of things. The first is Google has to recognize that that page even exists in the first place. And so we have to write about it and give Google time to crawl our website and understand that we have a piece of content on this particular topic now. And then we also have to give it time to rank it and hopefully rank it well. I mean, so it's really a two-step thing there. Has to, yeah, we have to have enough time for Google to index it, to rank it, and to get up and to put us on the first page, hopefully. Our recommendation is at least 30 days ahead of time, at least 30 days ahead of peak search traffic, I should say. So in case of ski season, if people start searching for ski stuff, in September, then we'd actually probably even want to write that in July. So it really isn't necessarily when the event happens or when the season is, but when are people searching for that, and let's back it up 30 to 60 days, sometimes 90 days before people start searching for it at a greater volume. Question from Imen, how important is to have a responsive website? How important for SEO ranking? So about a year and a half ago, there was something happened called Mobile-geddon that everybody was up in a tizzy about needing to have a responsive or a mobile-friendly website, I should say, and that Google had come public saying that this was going to be part of their ranking algorithm. And so we know that it's part of their ranking algorithm. For a while, they were actually listing on mobile search whether or not a result was mobile friendly or not. And so it would be labeled right there next to your URL or your name whether or not you were mobile friendly. And if you were, obviously that's great. It was listing you as such, and if you weren't, it wasn't listing you. So we took that as, hey, if Google is explicitly telling people which sites are mobile friendly and which are not, and a lot of times it is a responsive website that makes it mobile friendly from where you are, then yeah, if Google's using it in their algorithm, we want to make sure that we have the best website that they're looking for. Again, Google wants to serve up the best results for their users, and on a mobile phone, a responsive mobile-friendly website is the best result. And if you don't have one, Google's going to ding you. And while they might not take you to the 5th page, it might only hurt a couple of spots. I mean, we know that there's a significant change from how many people click on the 3rd spot in the Google search to how many people click on the 8th spot. And so there's really, there's no reason not to have a responsive website at this point if you're looking to do well both from the search engine standpoint and then also from the user experience standpoint. All right, well, this is the last question I have here right now, but if you have any more, be sure to submit them, and I'll stick around a little while longer. Doing some work on backlinks right now for our website. So notice it wasn't on the list. How do you feel on the importance of backlinks versus content? Yeah, so Charles, backlinks are very important. We spend a lot of time here as well. Obviously, just kind of with the title of the webinar being about content, how to make the content great. That's kind of where we focus today. And but yeah, backlinks are a tedious yet very important part of the SEO strategy as well. And it's not just any and every backlink that you can get. This again was an area that people were finding loopholes in the past and trying to just get any old bad website to link to them, and these kind of link farm spam websites were out there, but they were linking to people, and so Google saw they were linking, so yeah, this was great. But Google's done a really good job too about understanding what's a good link, what's a bad link. So ideally you want links from high domain authority websites, and you don't necessarily want links from low domain authority websites. And so again, there's some tools out there that you can do to research that. Moz is one. SEMrush helps with that as well, which we use pretty regularly. And there's other tools I've seen too. So whatever tool you find that works well for you, it will be great. But it has to be a quality backlink and not just every link under the sun, but one that's actually going to make an impact from Google's eyes. So. Alrighty, well that's I don't have any other questions here in the question panel. If you want to sneak one in real quick, go for it. I'll do my best to get to it. And if not, thanks for coming. We went just over an hour, but we had a lot of great questions, so thanks for submitting those. If you did request the free SEO content evaluation, I'll try to get to you today to try to set a time to do that. Just either put something on our schedule for tomorrow or sometime early next week, and we'll get that done. So again, thanks for showing up. We have another webinar next Tuesday. Matt's teaching, and we'll talk a little bit about HomeAway and what's going on there. And if I don't hear from you before then, I hope you have a great rest of your week, a good weekend, and look forward to seeing you at the webinar on Tuesday.